we have a lot of breaking news. We know you're a big baseball guy. Now, majority of the show is going to be football based tonight, but the big news is MLB released their Hall of Fame class of 2022, and I don't even know if you guys would call it a class. It's David Ortiz, and only David Ortiz was inducted into the 2022 Baseball Hall of Fame. Uh, I guess, Kyle, I'll start with you here. What are your thoughts on this, and just how are you surprised by this at all?
No, I'm not surprised that he got in. I think a lot of people, we're not kind of overstating the whole steroid presence, because obviously we know that David Ortiz was one of the people on those lists that, tested positive for PEDs back in the day, or that might have used it back in the day. But as we were talking about prior to the show, I never questioned it, because the other guys that were accused of using it, or guys even like Curt Schilling, who wasn't accused of using steroids but just wasn't a likable person, what the Hall of Fame has become, and it's a very respectable Hall of Fame, don't get me wrong when I say this, but it's become a factor, and it has been a likability by the public and the voters as well. And with Big Papi, the only reason why you ever had anything against him was because he was killing your team. He was just a likable face of baseball, and he was a tremendous athlete and player. Helped Boston win a lot of World Series, made them competitive, even to the end of his career, even towards the last season of his career. I think he had 40 home runs. Just a likable all-around guy. And you see in his presence today in the media when he's on MLB Network, just a likable, iconic guy. And I had no doubt in my mind that he was going to get in. Now, did I think he was going to, I don't want to say barely get in. I know you need 75%. I think he finished off at 77. That was kind of cutting it a little close, but there was no doubt in my mind that if it wasn't going to be this year, it was going to be the year after that.
Johnny, you're a Yankee fan too. I know this may hurt just a little bit, but obviously, I think well deserved for David. But first time on the ballot, correct?
Yes. And yeah, no, and that was one of the things that, when they were always talking about Bonds, just to bring it to Bonds and Clemens and Schilling real quick, is you had guys like Ortiz and A-Rod, first-year players, and I always thought that they were actually not going to get in first ballot, but they were going to take away votes from a Bonds and a Clemens and a Schilling. And if you look at the final numbers, I believe that Schilling actually dropped off to 58%. So he probably took a hit, not only because of his character, like Kyle had been saying, but also because you had those first ballot guys like Ortiz and A-Rod, and then plus, Bonds and Clemens, who actually did get a jump. And I think one of the other reasons why I think Bonds actually got a benefit is the timing of all this. This was his first year. Let's say that if you had Bonds and Clemens in their first year with all these other guys, they were starting to rise up. I mean, if you look at it, they both got 65+%. So if they were on the ballot for another, let's say 3, 4, 5 years, they were trending upward. So Ortiz to me also got a benefit because of the timing of all of it. And I have to say, I am a bit surprised. I always had thought that this ballot, people were going to come close, but I thought this was going to be another year with nobody getting in, at least on the writers' side. So, listen, you can't argue with David Ortiz, the player. I mean, he was clutch. I mean, as a Yankee fan, you know that. I mean, he was killing your soul, especially in that 2004 series. But even in the regular season, too, there's no doubt that David Ortiz, the player, with his numbers and everything and what he did on the field, was Hall of Fame worthy. But you know what? You go back to that report that anonymous report in 2003. He was on that. He was one of those 100 players that were on the steroid list. So it's definitely, and if you look at social media, as we saw before we went on the air, it definitely is causing a lot of controversy and drama and division on social media, because he got in, but if he was linked to steroids like Bonds and Clemens were, then why didn't they get in? And I think that goes back to what Kyle was saying. And I think character is a big deal. They do say that is a reason why. And I think you definitely saw that was a reason why. So, yeah, I am surprised that he got in first ballot. But you know what? I think timing does have a lot to do with it as well.
Absolutely. I do think timing is everything, right? In life, in sports,
yes.
In general. James is a Mets fan. We didn't really have to see him too much, but is there anything you wanted to add upon Kyle and Johnny? I know life is depressing for us as baseball fans, and it'll probably continue to be in 2022 As
If
Kyle
only
shakes
you
his
were
head.
this pessimistic on the Giants, man.
I knew that was coming.
Other than, good for Ortiz, he, besides his PED stuff, he played, he had a quite well career, being called Big Papi and whatnot. Good for him. Maybe this opens up the door for the rest of them. We'll see. It's also good to get some baseball news out in the world, considering we still have no clue when they're supposed to start the season, if there is a season. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think he deserved it, and we have a lot of comments pouring in the comments section. Let's get to that first comment from Noah Diabler. Noah, good evening. Happy anniversary to Tommy Boy. Thank you so much, Noah. Huge contributor from the Sports Box. Make sure to go check him out tonight on Highly Opinionated at 30 p.m. with Mike Galetta. I believe he's filling in for Brian Attard, if I'm not mistaken. And big step up for Noah. And also, he hosts the Sweet Tea Show Friday nights at 9. Hank, happy anniversary, Tom. Thanks so much for allowing me to join you on this review and preview journey. Thank you so much, Hank, for being my co-host on Big Blue Avenue and putting up with me for 20-plus weeks a season. Now we get to the baseball stuff. The idea that Papi has a plaque but not Bonds, Clemens, and A-Rod is a joke. And make no mistake, that isn't a knock on Papi. Interesting.
Hank, you saying that because you're a Yankee fan?
I feel like that's why.
Yeah. I don't disagree with Bonds. I mean, A-Rod openly came out. A-Rod lied about it, first off.
Yes.
Like he lied about it and then was openly admitted about it. So I understand that. Clemens as well. But with Bonds, again, how I look at it is this. Is it right that I think it was right in the sense that he shouldn't have been a first ballot, no doubt. But the fact that he's not a Hall of Famer at all, I think is a little too much. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. Noah, this is a big comment. Ortiz, 100% deserves it, but Bonds not in the Hall of Fame is a disgrace, plain and simple. Ortiz was at the very least heavily linked to steroids in 03. Is a nice guy as first ballot. Bonds and Clemens, heavily linked to steroids, are both major jerks, don't make it. Steroids are an excuse. They're not in because the media always hated them, especially Bonds. Sorry,
so it's pretty much become a character thing now. So all these guys that have, I mean, you could be an angel, but if you cheat and stuff. So if that's the case, then how come Jason Giambi wouldn't get in the Hall of Fame then? Because Giambi, at least he came out and admitted that he took steroids and stuff, and everybody liked him ever since. So Jason Giambi should have gotten consideration more so than if we're gonna play that game. It causes a lot more controversy and drama and stuff, and it's the last thing that baseball needed. But now it's going to have to go to these other committees and stuff, and we'll have to see. I mean, the writers have if you've been watching the sports media and stuff, a lot of the writers who have a vote have basically admitted that character is a big reason why. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to make this all about a character issue. I mean, I guess it's just part of today's society now.
Yeah. We have another comment from Dom, kind of what we've been talking about. If you let Ortiz in, why is Bonds and the rest not allowed in? They need to keep it consistent.
Yeah, Dominic, I mean, I think, and I've said this to a lot of people, the first guy that was going to get into the Hall of Fame that was linked to steroids was going to create a huge nutshell of all this. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, it started today. That's really what it is. You're going to see this now in the days and weeks to come. Everybody's going to be talking about stuff like this. The first guy that would have gotten in with the Hall of Fame, whether it was Ortiz or A-Rod or Bonds, whoever it was from that era that was going to get in was going to create a whole drama like this. I mean, we could spend 5 hours just on this, but I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So what we've basically learned though today is its character has become a big deal when it comes to the Hall of Fame vote.
Along with character, I think a lot of the reason why people are upset and people are, posting on social media angry the way that they are, I don't think it has anything to do with getting into the Hall of Fame. I think it has to do with the fact that he was a first ballot and guys like Bonds didn't get in the Hall of Fame at all. Mm-hmm. I think that's what that is what angering people.
Because I'll give you one other thing, Kyle. Mike Piazza, I think, was more of a first ballot Hall of Famer than David Ortiz was, and he did not get in on the first ballot. And a lot of people thought that it was because he was linked to steroids, which he never was. And character wise, I mean, he was, he never had any character issues. I mean, heck, he probably had arguably the greatest home run in the history of the Mets organization.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
in my opinion, I mean, there's an argument that he was the best hitting catcher of all time. You can make that argument for sure. I know there's other names you have to debate in there as well, but the comment section is already debating.
Love it.
More Bud Selig comment. Bud Selig being in as a joke. If you know about that era, you know why. Thank you, Review and Preview. Whoever wrote that, appreciate you. It was one of our 12 staff members. Goes to show you how far we've come. Nope, not because I'm a Yankee fan. It's the truth. Trust me, I've said a million times we should have never pitched the Bonds. Or Poppy, he means. Yep. Character shouldn't be relevant. Like with T.O. getting robbed the first ballot. You can't tell the story of baseball without Barry Bonds, period.
It's true. The chase for Mark McGwire's record, I mean, that's part of the baseball storyline, no matter what you want to say. That's a big part of in the saving of baseball too.
Mm-hmm.
Noah Hank did not like Manny Ramirez or Jason Varitek. Varitek got into a lot of brawls often. Papelbon too.
Papelbon. Oh yeah, I mean you could let this list go down long and long. I mean you could go back to Bronson Arroyo hitting A-Rod. I mean list goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Mike DeSanto, co-host of Four Corners. Shout out to Mike. Thank you very much from Elmira, New York. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Bonds and Clemens having to wait to the end is punishment enough. Not putting them in is ignoring an entire era of the game because they were two of the best in their generation. That is Mike DeSanto, folks. Yeah, for sure. These are all valid points, guys. Noah, Mike Piazza was the greatest hitting catcher ever. Wow. And that's coming from a Braves fan.
Yeah.
That's crazy.